All right. And welcome everybody to the Mark and Mo Experience, a program where we are coming together alongside, of course, the incredible Mark Victor Hansen. And what we are going to do here on this program is we're going to have conversations where we cover two things: ideas and authors. If there's anything that you know about Mark Victor Hansen, is that he has a lot of ideas and he also knows a lot of authors. And so this program is what we call a periodical here at the Los Angeles Tribune. That means we do it periodically. There's no day, there's no time. There's a spontaneous, this show is just like life. It's spontaneous. And so you never know when we're going to do it. At some point, we will give you a heads up. But for this first program, we wanted to come on here and just, first of all, announce the Mark and Mo Experience here at the Los Angeles Tribune. We're so excited. We're so grateful for our community. We're just coming off of our annual Leadership Week, where we brought together 300 speakers from around the world, over 25 New York Times bestselling authors. We had queens of countries. We had the Queen of the Democratic Republic of Congo join us, professional athletes. And of course, this also serves as a bonus for everybody that was participating in our Leadership Week. And with that being said, I want to thank my mentor, Mark Victor Hansen, for not only the opportunity to do this program with him, but also for his mentorship, his guidance, and his friendship. And with that, Mark, welcome to the Mark and Mo Experience. How excited are you?
Beyond excited. I'm exuding. I believe that you're three things. You're obviously a body, and most people think that their body, and women spend their time looking beautiful. I don't get to do that very much. I'm just me, right? And then you got your mind, which can think and imagine and all that. But more importantly, you got your spirit, which is what you deliver. And spirit is not only invisible, but it's eternal and it's infinite. And it offers the attachment to infinite wisdom if you're in tune with the infinite. And our show is going to be that, because most authors have been so diligent putting it together that they want to share the wisdom that they've accumulated. And books have been around 5,000 years. And everybody that's super successful that I know, and I'm a Horatio Alger Award winner, as you know, which is 1 in 10 of us win it a year, and means you came from rags to riches and been excessively philanthropic. You get into the Supreme Court and one international person. But it's fascinating that I know all of them, and they're friends, because we spend a week together a year giving away 37,000 scholarships to college kids, trade schools, and tech schools. And I know I've overstated this, but what I'm saying is every one of those people have disciplined themselves to go into the higher level of them. Like, I'll finish with one line, and that is Elon Musk is the only guy who's about to become a trillionaire in just a few days as we're talking here. And that's because he is in this, he's only signal and no noise, and he's in signal and in tune with the infinite. That's why he can write 8 multi-billion-dollar businesses and do better than most people can do with one little operation.
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I appreciate so much about the different contributions of the Mark Victor Hansen Library and affiliates of the Mark Victor Hansen Library is the appreciation of mind science. What you're speaking about on a spiritual level, spirituality to me is only as powerful as how we can incorporate it with our mind. And that's why the work of Reverend Ike, for example, is so important, because one of the things that you did with Reverend Ike and that book was you were able to highlight somebody who once famously said, "I'm not looking for a pie in the sky when I die. I want something sound on the ground while I'm still around," right? And so, and that was one of Reverend Ike's quotes. And I actually first discovered Reverend Ike about 10 years ago. Funny enough, since then, he's gotten very popular because of social media. I mean, he was obviously very popular in the 70s, but I was reading the autobiography of Don King maybe 10, 15 years ago, because don't ask me why, but it was just interesting to study him. And Don King got his wardrobe ideas from watching Reverend Ike. Not a lot of people know that. It's kind of a little fun fact about Don King. And then I was reading the biography, and I'm like, who's this Reverend Ike guy? And then I just fell in love with his principles and his concepts. But going back to you talking about the spirit, the spirit, again, is only as powerful in our lives as we make it. And we can't apply the spirit without our mind. And what I love about Reverend Ike's work is that he makes it so practical and makes it easy to understand and simplifies it for us to be able to digest. And also with the Proverbs book that you've just published, that's also a way to help people have the spiritual components in practical day-to-day life. And so how have you, Mark, with this book, been able to simplify that process for people that think it might be too complicated? One of the things I love about Proverbs is it's pretty digestible, unlike other parts of the Bible that sometimes you have to read and reread and you're like, I don't really get what this is. So what about the simplification of spiritual wisdom? What do you have to say on that concept?
Well, first of all, Proverbs was the wisest. Proverbs is written by the wisest, richest man of all time, who took in $2 trillion worth of gold a year 3,000 years ago, Solomon. And he inherited the kingdom. And then he asked, God said, well, what do you want? And he said, look, I think you could have riches, you have money, women, whatever you want. He said, no, I want wisdom. And see, it wasn't a one-off. If you really read it right, he wanted wisdom for all of us, but each of us individually have to ask for the wisdom. That's what happened. So one of my colleagues and students for 40 years, a guy named Dr. Jerry Fox, a great doctor of chiropractic, pulled out the Proverbs. Everybody always does the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the Gospels, but no one ever did the Old Testament. And he sent me a copy. He said, look, Mark, I did this inspired by you, and I didn't know you were a publisher yet, but I'm in 100 countries and 4 continents. What do you think? I think, let me do it again. And I redid it as a cover. I wrote the forward and the backward. I defined how easy it is because there's 31 chapters. So you read a chapter a day. It'll take you 10 minutes, maybe 12. And then think about one of the lines in there and apply it to your life. And if you do that 31 days, you're going to emerge with wisdom. Well, if you got wisdom, you're going to have influence, you're going to have affluence, you're going to have prosperity, success, joy, happiness, more money than you can handle, and a love life that is worthy of you. Like I way out married myself, as you know. You met my wife and I, and we've had a couple of meals together in different places in the world, and it's been beyond great because we synchronize spontaneously. Whoops, you went silent there.
That's absolutely right, Mark. And one of the things that I think is so important as well is to look at leadership from the standpoint of examples. In other words, when you look at your relationship, there's so many things for people to be inspired by. One thing that I think anybody that spent time with you and your wife would say is that it's almost as though you two are still on your honeymoon. I mean, the energy is as though you two just got married and you're newlyweds, and that's a beautiful thing. A lot of times we see from the standpoint of romantic relationships, there's a fast high and then there's a quick crash. But how do you maintain that high? How do you maintain that love, that exuberance, that joy, that appreciation, that gratitude? And I think fundamentally, any relationship has to do with gratitude and generosity. Every time that I've seen business relationships go south, it was because at some point along the way, there was a little bit less gratitude for the other person and just a little bit less generosity for the other person. And so if we enter any relationship, whether it's personal, romantic, or in business, with the standpoint of as generous as possible and as grateful as possible, I think those are the two formulas for success. And Speaker Eric Swanson here also is agreeing with its gratitude and generosity. What are your concepts on that, Mark? Because sometimes we do business with people and maybe we do better than they do, or they do better, and then the gratitude and generosity fizzles away. Next thing you know, you have issues with someone who you maybe were doing business with and maybe we're friends with. How do you maintain the gratitude and generosity throughout that process to avoid that from happening?
Well, first of all, you marry right, and we're 2 hearts and 1 soul. And she was on my bucket list. As you know, I wrote down 267 things. The 20th anniversary issue of Chicken Soup, we put it in, but the editor said, look, you can't have the whole book. We'll give you 112 of the things. Like, we had to be like-minded. We had to like each other's friends. We had to want to travel. One of the big biggies, because money is always a problem for most people, is that she had to have her own money. I'd already tried somebody marrying me for my wallet, and that's like a dysfunctional behavior. And then you do the negatives, like she cannot smoke because I'm not going to kiss an ashtray. That's not something I'm willing to do. And it's right. And we see our friend Eric Swanson is marry right and love it. And I way out-married myself. And we've got, as you know, in our blended family, 5 kids, 6 grandkids. You've met them. And I got to say, knock on wood, they are all gifted and superstar little athletes. The kids are. And when we do everything with them. Can I just take you through one thing we just did together? We took them back to Washington, D.C., and we went to the Museum of the Bible. And I think you've met with me a few times, the chairman of that, Dr. Carlos Campa, who he was waiting outside to take our whole family on a tour. I couldn't believe it. I mean, here's the world's biggest museum, 470,000 square feet. We walk in, and there, I grew up Lutheran, so I certainly knew what Martin Luther looked like. And I'd just seen a TV show on him. It looked like he was standing there to greet. I thought, holy cow, he came here from 500 years ago. And I went to grab him, and my hand went through the image. It was just amazing. But then we took the kids to the White House. We got a tour and the Capitol and all the statuary. And then we went to New York and went to a play. And they got in all the high buildings, the Empire State Building, and they went up to the Statue of Liberty. But what I'm trying to say is that you learn with your kids and then with your grandkids. And my old colleague Zig Ziglar used to say, if I knew how much I'd love the grandkids, I would have been better to the kids. But yes, generosity is it. Crystal's exceedingly generous to me, and I live in gratitude. I'm thankful for her wisdom, her love, her thinking, the family that she's gotten me. I mean, her mother sent her to the seminar that was in LA that I talked at, Author 101. And then when Crystal called her that night and I was inviting her out to dinner at 9:30 at night, she said, I'm going out to dinner with Mark Victor Hansen. She said, I knew it. And I'd never met this woman, but we are just best friends, and we dance and play and travel together. So it's just superb.
That's wonderful. And what a great book Ask is. And for those that are watching, I highly encourage people to not just buy that book, but live by that principle. Ask. It's amazing how few people will not ask for what they want out of life and then get upset that they didn't get what they didn't even ask for. I mean, it's kind of like that whole concept that common sense is not so common, is it, Mark?
Yeah, what's common is not sensical, and what's sensical is not common, I've written. But in Ask, we're teaching 3 asks. You got to ask yourself, you got to ask others, and ask God. And most people never ask God. They plead with God when they don't have it. Oh, please don't let me crash this car. Please give me enough money to pay my bills this month. Instead, if you get in tune with the infinite, all that stuff will be right in front of you. And Eric's back with us. He said, I need another signed copy. By the way, you and I were just at a meeting with him where we had a bunch of great authors, our friend Sharon Lecter and everything. And what did Swanson do? Swanson was in front of everybody, came up to the stage, grabbed my book and ran away with it like he put it in his coat and said like he was stealing it. And it was so funny. I should have paid him for that because it was so rollickingly good. The audience loved it. We love Eric Swanson, who keeps coming on and saying he's with us, and he is
a great friend, a great speaker. And one thing about Eric Swanson that I appreciate is his work ethic. He has tenacity. He's always active. Every single day, he does something to propel his mission forward, and that is something that I appreciate about Eric. It's the tenacity. And I did see a few books pop up on eBay shortly after that meeting. There was about 4 or 5 books, autographed copies of Mark. So hopefully Eric made a book or 2 as well.
But I agree with what you're saying is that you need aspiration, inspiration, perspiration, and dedication to the destination of your heart's desire. And I love these little rhymes and rhythms because people will remember them. Aspiration, everyone needs to aspire to something, no matter what your chronology. I mean, I'm 78 going on 127 with options for renewal, so I'm in superb shape and I got 50 years to go. Most people don't even work 50 years really anymore. And yet I am more excited now about all the cool stuff happening with Mark Victor Hansen Library, with Crystal Mark Entertainment. We're going to be making movies with the companies that I'm a participant and owner in, where we're going to change the world. The world has never needed change more than now. And there's never been 8.4 billion people before, and we're going to take care of them and do it in wondrous, exciting, and new ways.
Absolutely. And I think this is a great time to also announce that in future Los Angeles Tribune films, Mark Victor Hansen will be in them. We obviously have the Pillars of Power. It's a 6-part series. Many of our mutual friends like Michael Beckwith and Sharon Lecter are in that movie. We're going to watch a 20-second clip of Sharon Lecter, and then Mark and I will be closing out the very first and short program of the Mark and Mo experience.
Your message can help other people. So your message then can become your mission. And by doing that, you're helping other people coming through it, and you become their miracle.
And you know, one of the
Beautiful.
complaints that people had about previous films was that they would watch a transformational film, they would get some insights, and then they would not have an action plan afterwards. And so what we're doing is we're solving that problem by creating 6 films that one of them is the introduction to the concepts, and then the 5 of them, of which you're going to be in several of them, cover the 5 subject matters: mental well-being, financial well-being, physical well-being, relationship well-being, and of course, spiritual well-being. And so we're solving that problem of people just getting a intro, but not getting the full enchilada. And that's also the same problem that you solved decades ago when the first Chicken Soup for the Soul came out. You quickly offered a second serving, and then a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth and a seventh serving, to the point where anybody that needed some chicken soup for the soul had the refrigerator full of it. And that was actually very important to do, because the first book for a lot of people was not enough. They needed to, you know, if you were a teacher and you read that first book, you needed to have something specialized for you. If you were a student and you read that first book, you needed to have something specialized for you. And so you solved that problem that a lot of people have with life-changing books, is it's okay, well, and now what? And so by offering that massive collection and that library with Chicken Soup for the Soul, but also now with the Mark Victor Hansen library, you're solving that problem for a lot of people. And we're helping do that as well on the visual side. And I'm looking forward to us collaborating together. Again, this has been the Mark and Mo Experience. It's a program. This was our very first time doing this. We're going to be doing this periodically with special guests. Sometimes I may get a phone call from Mark where he's going to say, Mo, are you ready to talk for a few minutes? And I'm going to say, yes, let's go. And we'll have conversations where it's just him and I. Sometimes we'll have one guest. Sometimes we may have multiple. But I encourage everybody, if you're listening to this on Facebook, to follow the Facebook page. This will also be available on Spotify and where all podcasts and programs are available. So subscribe, because this is an opportunity for us not only to speak to incredible authors, but for us to be able to tap into somebody who is not just an author, not just a speaker, but an industrialist. The definition of an industrialist is somebody that created industry. When you examine the multi-billion-dollar personal development industry that now has multiple different subsects through social media, through programming, through online coaching, through books, audio, etc., even podcasts. Podcasts were not a thing when Chicken Soup for the Soul was first published. So we're talking about somebody that helped form an entire industry. That's a level of insight that very few shows and programs are able to offer. But that's what we're offering through the Mark and Mo experience, is a level of insight from an industrialist. Anybody that is in the personal development industry today, even if you're a new coach or a new speaker or part of a younger generation, a lot of your material and a lot of the concepts that are timeless concepts were made popularized by Chicken Soup for the Soul decades ago. And they've been rehashed and reprinted and requoted and resaid. But if you actually look at it from the standpoint of a geologist, you can look that there were a few different moments in time where somebody came in the personal development world and made a significant impact. Norman Vincent Peale, Napoleon Hill, Mark Victor Hansen, along with Jack Canfield, the two of them. When The Secret film came out, that was something that I would also say was a qualifier for a moment in time. And there's about half a dozen other examples, but the list is very short. And all of these people contributed as fellow industrialists to what today we call the personal development industry, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, which also has opened up a whole new set of other industries in the wellness world that people sometimes forget, give credit to where it originated from. When you see a yoga studio somewhere in a shopping mall next to a Gucci or Louis Vuitton store, that didn't exist when Chicken Soup for the Soul was published. You couldn't go to a wellness center in the early 90s. People would have thought that you were a hippie from California if you told them you wanted to go do hot yoga after you get your nails done. But today it's part of culture. You go to Beverly Hills and people get their nails done and then they go to a yoga studio. you can actually trace these things back to the personal development industry. You can trace these things back, these concepts back to Chicken Soup for the Soul, because these things opened up people's minds. These programs and these books planted seeds. They took people out of the matrix. And so, Mark, with that being said, I'm going to give you the floor for you to just share a few more insights until we wrap up. And I want to leave it here because I want people to be excited about the Mark and Mo experience. This is going to be, in my opinion, one of the greatest shows that anyone could listen to regularly, because they're ideas that actually help you, the audience, the listener. When you hear Mark and I talk, we're talking about things that you can actually apply in your life, not just things to theorize on. So, Mark, please close us out.
Well, we started on leadership, and leadership I define different than anyone else. My friend, I was just with Dr. John Maxwell. He says leadership is influence. That's wonderful, but it's a subset of what I believe. Leadership is storytelling. And I am a lifelong storyteller, as is this guy keeps going on and telling us the seeds of greatness are in him. I love Eric. Anyhow, it's fun that we get to play like this and be great friends, because you're a great storyteller. I'm a great storyteller. You and I hang around great storytellers, and what you said is correct. We're going to bring the greatest storytellers that tell positive stories that uplift, enchant, enhance, elevate, escalate, and appreciate the value of everybody's soul that will watch and listen to us. So I am thankful for the Mo and Mark show. I think it even rhymes.
It does rhyme. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. And again, if you're listening to this on Apple, on Spotify, make sure that you subscribe. If you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube, share it. Let people know about this brand new program. This is going to be very important, not only for authors, for the publishing industry, but for ideas. Thank you again to everybody for all of your support. And we'll see you next time at a soon to be announced date. And we're going to close out with a clip from Pillars of Power.
My second highest pillar is focusing on my health and well-being, my mental health and well-being, my emotional health and well-being, and my physical health and well-being. And the reason for that for me, I've had severe ulcerative colitis. I've had injuries. I have been sick, and I can't take care of me, my family, or contribution to the world unless I am healthy. And so I invest a lot of time every day, every week, every month on my emotional, my mental, and my physical health.